pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, go ahead and call the meeting to order. Motion to approve the agenda as presented. Thank you, Joel. Second. Thank you, Aaron. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Public communications? All good. Conflicts disclosure? None. Motion to approve the minutes of our regular meeting October 11th and our special meeting on October 21st.
So moved.
Thank you, Marty. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Larry. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the financial statements as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the claims.
So moved.
Thank you, Aaron. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Larry. Discussion?
See, we've got another $4,600 boiler repair this month.
Yep.
More coming because
That's
they'll be
not
here
all.
tomorrow.
That's just the tip, right?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's aware that we're having a ton of boiler troubles again, right, Jim, in the last couple weeks?
We had, the first 2 weeks that we had it running, we had 2 tubes leaking the first week, 3 tubes leaking the second week. They shut it down today. We did get it running again last week where they plugged some tubes. The gentleman that works on it says that according to the state guidelines for boilers, the capacity of our particular boiler can only have 12 plugs full. Well, if we're starting in the third week of our heating season with 5 plugs, he said it's not a good start, so they are replacing some of the tubes today and tomorrow with a little bit of the reprise in the temperature outside. And so we hope to be back to maximum tube capacity by tomorrow or Wednesday.
But we've had a couple days or a day or two where we have not had heat in
Oh,
parts of the
absolutely.
building.
And
That
we had
happens
a
in
cold spell.
February,
It
we
was
got big
cold.
problems.
And I did check back, we retubed the whole boiler in, the 18-19 school year.
Okay.
And to retube the whole thing was $30,000.
You know, I think that's important for the public to know, and we really need to make sure it gets out there on, Bearcat TV so people can, get the facts straight and be able to replay it for friends. But we have invested in this boiler every year, and there has been no lack of care for that boiler. We were very blessed to have Dan Nash work at the school district for how many years?
1986 to 2018.
32 years. And he took care of that boiler and babied that boiler, and there's been nothing where we have neglected to invest in that boiler. We want to make it clear, we're working on a piece of machinery that could be, 90 years old? I wish it would last forever, but, that's tough. That's awfully tough.
You just gotta be realistic.
You have to be
There's
realistic.
nobody local anymore either.
Yeah, there's nobody local. When you have water moving through steel, you're gonna have wear, it's the nature of the beast.
And I think I had just today, somebody asked me, where is the boiler? And I would encourage them to go back and look at the video that's actually on Bearcat TV where they give a tour of the school. It is out there because I think, for the most part, this individual that asked me, 70% of our citizens in our district have no idea where the boiler is at when it comes to the old high school.
Not wheelchair accessible either.
It is not wheelchair accessible.
Chase, do you remember what month you made that video?
I don't.
April or May.
How can
That
people
sound right?
find it on Bearcat TV?
You just have to search Webster High School boiler video. It'll come up.
Webster High School boiler video?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on the claims? They look good to me. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve volunteer coaches contingent upon background check for boys basketball, Spencer Huggin.
So moved.
Thank you, Larry. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Joel. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pitt, and I know those are all here at the Army, and then they've been transferring stuff. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the second reading of the Activities Fund policy.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Larry. Discussion? This is the second reading. We had it last month. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve contract for Spencer Roush Junior High Wrestling contingent upon his background check.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve Jordan Bauer as assistant track contract contingent upon his background check.
So moved.
Thank you, Larry. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Marty. Discussion? Obviously, this would be taking the position of the resignation that we accepted last month. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to declare as surplus property with no value and to be disposed of a bench drill press jet model JDP-14U and a bench grinder with soda model E-11. Make sure you get that all perfect for the paper there, Caleb, and I can get you the stuff later on. Got a motion?
So moved.
All right, thanks, Aaron. Second, Joel. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to declare as surplus property with a value over $500 and to sell by sealed bids a welder wire feed Millermatic 250.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel. Second. Thank you, Marty. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve the co-curricular worker pay increase as presented by Adam Mines, Athletic Director. Thank you, Aaron. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Larry. Discussion?
I thought it was a nice put together proposal. Is there any reasoning? I mean, and time when this up, Lori, or do you know what the reasoning was?
I believe he thinks it's time to increase the last time we increased, I believe, was 2016. And it's very difficult to get those workers.
was wondering.
And so I think it's on his part just a little bit of appreciation and to also bring us more in line with other school districts. It's not a whole lot when somebody's giving up their money.
Not a whole lot, and I see, I've seen fans yell at line judges at volleyball.
Yes, mine doesn't even
You
count.
know, what I say, that's the job I'm signing up for that, those folks that are doing it, there's either a love of the game or, a love of students, it's not a love of a paycheck. I thought he did a nice job, it's very well put together, comparing us with other districts that are in the northeast South Dakota area. I thought it all looked pretty reasonable. All right.
I mean, I don't think it's gonna have a huge effect on our budget.
No. All right, so this would be.
And it's gonna go retroactive to the beginning of the
Yes,
year.
this will be as of the first, actually our first game. Did we have a game before school started? I don't remember if we did or not, but it'll be as of the beginning of 2021, 2022 sports season. All right, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to approve pole vault practice taking place in Roslyn in accordance with our previous conversation last month.
So moved.
Thank you, Larry. Second. Thank you, Marty. Discussion?
I don't believe there's any new information from what we heard last month. That was a discussion.
I think it was good to get it out. I didn't have any feedback from the general public, so I think we go forward with it. Sounds
Didn't
like
hear anything.
good plan.
Kevin's in charge of everything to do with it, so.
Yep. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to amend the return to school plan dealing with COVID.
So moved.
Thank you, Aaron. Second? Thank you, Marty. Discussion?
So, at two recent meetings that I've attended, one with principals, we were two of probably about 20 schools that was still doing the 7, 10, 14-day quarantine. The majority of the schools have done something fewer, and some are doing situations where as long as students are, if they're a close contact with somebody in school, as long as they're symptom-free and they wear a mask, then they don't go home at all. It ranges from that extreme all the way to what we are doing, which is the 10 days minimum, 7 days is the earliest that you can come back. And so I went to a superintendent's meeting last Wednesday, and there was 5 out of 22 schools that were doing something similar to us, or a little bit less, but the rest of them were, they're not requiring a quarantine as long as it's free and will wear a mask. So we're in the minority, which I kind of knew we would be, and we were. I'll be honest, I was a little bit hesitant to even bring up this discussion because wishing away COVID is not going to make COVID go away. However, we also have to learn how to live with COVID and function with COVID, and I think that's why a lot of school districts are making modifications to their programs. If you ask for a recommendation from me, statistically, up until today, we could say that we've not had a close contact in school that eventually tested positive. We actually had that today for the first time. Also knowing that the contact with the person who was positive was both in school and out of school, overnight stay, things like that. So we can say statistically, yes, we have one of those situations, but you could also say, yeah, there's a lot more contact than just, eating lunch at school without your mask on or doing science class together. Nonetheless, if that's the first time in 2 years, it shows that it really probably statistically is not being happened. as much in the classes as we need to. I will say there's probably a lot more students that are not being tested. They are either not, or choosing not to, or it's not worth it. I think the ones that being tested are the ones that have proved that they've got negative results from that. Their current policy. The one situation that I did like with any of those that were on the extreme where you're not requiring any time to be quarantined, as long as you're symptom-free, is that if you are a sibling or within the household of the person who tested positive, then you have to go home for a minimum of 3 days. And then if you're symptom-free and have negative test, you can come back. It's one of those things, we could debate 5 days, 7 days, 14 days, you can do all those things. It's a matter of how do we get in school as much as possible with also trying to keep the safety of all other students in mind.
If we haven't had that problem, do we want to change it? Do we want to relax our standards just to go along with other people?
The only thing that I would say to that is we've had our most recent case has 17 students on the close contact list. The one previous to that was 14. The one previous to that was about 7 or 8. So, if you get too many of those, and we have had a couple of students already hooked twice, can always be mindful of his one son that he got hit 4 times during the school year last year, wasn't it? Maybe
No,
more.
double digits. Ridiculous.
Homeschooling.
Yeah, pretty much.
So,
And then you got it the last time.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what you do.
And it was because of, we were all learning back then, your experience with your children, my experience with my children, that, helped us formulate a policy to try to get kids back into school as soon as possible while keeping the rest safe.
Our policy last year, the way it was written, strongly encouraged mask wearing.
I think it's hard to compare this year to last year, because didn't you say last year, pretty much the grade school kids, they masked up just because the teacher told them to.
Right.
This year, I don't think kids are masking in school, are they?
There's,
Pretty rare.
yeah, very few.
We had
There's
10, K-12, I think, was right.
Yeah. And so it's really comparing apples to oranges with that.
But I bet the vaccine plays into that too.
Sure,
Yeah.
agreed.
A lot of kids have had the vaccine.
Right, and now that
They
5
picked
to
them up.
11 is open, I've heard some more kids going in to get a shot.
Yep.
Jim, did any of those schools that, with the close contact, they can wear a mask, go back to school, did they have any outbreaks, or were there any concerns of COVID outbreaks?
No, actually, at the meetings that I've been in, there's not been any discussion about any large outbreaks anywhere that I'm aware of. I'm not aware of them.
I'll just throw out there right away, I think we could modify. I think, first of all, an easy answer is that if a child's been vaccinated and they're a close contact, I think they should be able to come back to school, day one, ask them to wear a mask. I think that's encouraged.
We're currently
We
doing.
already were
Right,
doing that.
that's encouragement, and we make them clear that it's in their best interest to have the vaccination. The one concern I have about is that if you read the newspaper, we're going up in the state. And as one of the district patrons told me, who is very conservative, his daughter works in the COVID ward, and he says, look, when they get here, they come here to die. It's not a good thing. And I think that our students are, for the most part, safe. What I still worry about more than anything is our staff. Is because I think our staff's average age is not necessarily young. And I am concerned about, substitute teachers, whether we have the Mrs. Doolittle, I don't know if she's still substituting this year. We have some substitute teachers that, if they get it, it's a different issue than if my 12-year-old or 14-year-old daughter would. It is. So that's where my concern is. I don't think we should just throw the baby out with the bathwater. And like Larry said, hey, it's not broke, why fix it?
the Associated School Board in November, their recommendation was no additional immunization requirement. They're not gonna add COVID or anything. That's their position, doesn't mean what they're going to do.
So every one of those kids that have been non-close contact, or excuse me, close contact, are non-vaccinated. And that they're just getting, or do they know that if they're vaccinated, they can come back?
Yeah, we inform them, we treat vaccinated students just like we do if you were wearing a mask.
They can be in back to day one.
Right. Or if you can prove that you have the antibodies, you can come back with them.
I think how many hundreds of days have literally been missed by kids that have been close contact? And if statistically we have 0 cases of a close contact developing a case, I'm in favor of doing the policy, kind of what you can suggest other schools are doing, where if you're in a close contact, as long as you wear a mask, I think they should be able to do it.
So how are we gonna monitor that in the high school?
We probably have to put together a list of students who should be wearing masks, and that's what we want to do. I will say that the staff, they tend to keep track of that anyway. We had a couple of situations today of some students that shouldn't be wearing masks, and we found out about it during the first period.
So how many times how many times does it take till you get caught before you're sent home?
Well, in this case, they complied, and it was a miscommunication, they thought they were allowed to be without a mask. But I'm not a fool with any kids that won't wear masks when they're supposed to wear masks.
I mean, basically what our policy would be is back. Well, we're done. Come back day one. No reason to get tested.
You mean,
I just
you mean
think
if
that-
you're a close contact, just come back?
I don't know, why would you ever go get tested? You wouldn't.
Now, our policy right now does require that they either have antibodies and can prove that with the documentation, or it does require that they have a negative result to return. And so at least the testing is just for them to come back. I can see that argument. If we completely waived it and said everybody can be back with a mask, then you are correct, we will have very, very, very few people being tested.
Then I think you'll have a hard time enforcing whether or not you would. When you have 20 students out of 500.
But even still, none of those have tested positive, the ones that have been tested.
But I think that, I respect what you're saying on that, Aaron, but I think it's apples to oranges. Last year, the kids were wearing masks. You know, my son was wearing a mask last year, got busted still in close contact. The time he got it, actually did get it, was at a boys basketball game. When we played Teal Spazina, when a bunch of the players, Teal Spazina had it, and a bunch of our kids got it. Obviously, they weren't masked during the game. I think there's a difference. I mean, if we just say that it never happened, close contacts don't happen in a school setting, they do. I mean, they have to happen somewhere because people still get it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're still getting it from some type of contact somewhere. I'm good with getting them into school. I think that, I just think we should also be conservative. I mean, I know that I'm in the minority in this area. I know that. But I think we also have to be prepared for the consequences. And if we have teachers that are missing, I mean, that's a problem. Finding substitute teachers. Finding the teachers to fill the position. It's not. If somebody gets COVID, and if you lose.
Yeah, we haven't had any had any problems with teachers this year with COVID, finding substitutes.
Last year we did.
Correct.
I don't suppose there's any way to know a statistic on what percentage of staff is vaccinated and what percentage of student body is vaccinated, is there?
We're not allowed. We are finding out from those who are close contact and have to go home, and then we're finding out that they're vaccinated.
And I'm not pushing a vaccine here, it's just, the facts are the facts, you just gotta deal with them.
We do have access, but it's not that I'm aware of. I don't know if we can print a report where it just says that these always kids are vaccinated. We have access to go to each individual student and see if they're vaccinated because it's on the state.
And I do think, Aaron, to your point, that is what helped us last year, like you said, Tom, they were masked, and I think that helped mitigate the risk. And this year, I would like to think enough of them are vaccinated that would also act to mitigate it.
But you have 20 kids in one class and you have 40 kids. That sounds like to me like not many kids are.
Can we clarify something probably for me, that all 50 states require immunization to attend public school? Now, this lawsuit with the parochial schools, the private schools, whatever, they do not require immunization to attend those. Is that a misconception, or
Yeah, public schools are,
all 50?
you are required to attend the public school, you are required to have evictions that are expected within each state. Some states are
Each state is different, but parochial or private.
They can do what they wish to for requirements.
So, Brown College in our conference, a private school, immunization there could be 0 or
Could be more stringent.
less or more, but by state. So that, we try to do something here. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Just seems like we're beating our head against the wall.
I think, and you, I don't mean to speak for you, but are you kind of going down the realm in the sense that because we have competitive sports, we have other activities, we're intermingling with these other schools, and some of those are private schools which may not have any requirements. No matter how hard we try here,
We're beating our head against the wall.
it might be the next event that we go to that brings it in, or that we get to spread.
Kind of, I mean, as Aaron stated, we haven't had a problem here. Whatever,
I would say that's one of the oxymorons of this whole situation, is that, we've had these guidelines in place for COVID, but yet we have football, we have basketball, we have wrestling, we have all these activities where you are repetitive, unmasked. Some states do have masking during their sports. I don't know if they do this year or not, but I know they do some activities.
Well, gentlemen, what do we want to do?
Do you see this being an issue with the current policy?
With our current policy, we've had, three cases so far this year, so, and we're into November. I mean, statistically, you look at it, it's not a terrible situation, but it is for those that it's, because they're home for minimally 7 days before they can come back.
Yeah, but with all the parents that I've spoken with, a lot of them, I'd say a majority of them, all of them, are in favor of masking up, sending my kids out to school. They want their kids in school. Of course, I didn't hear back from all of them, from a few. I think going back, Tom, to what you said about the staff and, masking up, I would think if they were concerned about the COVID, they'd be masking up a little bit more.
You mean the staff having them masked up?
Right, or substitutes coming in. I mean, it's really up to them if they want to be more protected, correct? Or substitutes coming in.
I guess I'll throw out, I agree with you, Craig, but is that one young elementary teacher said to me, Tom, the difference between high school kids and grade school kids. The grade school kid looks at you and then sneezes in your face and doesn't stop themselves. I mean, they're just little kids that make mistakes, so. Yeah, I get it. It can be on the staff. We can put it back on them. I'm a little bit more conservative. But that's just me. I think that there's different ways of looking at it.
Yeah, I just look at that close contact, and if we haven't had any, like Aaron said, positive until this one last week, it's just like, well, some kids can operate fine at home being quarantined, but others, my gosh, need to be in school, that's the best place for them. But yeah, on the other side, I totally understand about the conservative part and being safe and everything too. It's like, flip a coin, and what we've been dealing with. The COVID situation is tough. Yeah, I'm fine going either way, but I really like getting kids back in school, masking up.
If we had some close contact develop it, that's one thing, but when we haven't had any, that's a lot of days that are missed. And we're a school, we're supposed to be in school.
Yeah, whatever it takes to keep them here.
I agree, and I think last year we were aggressive on getting them here versus other schools. I think we were very aggressive, more than we were. So again, I'm all for getting them in here.
Yeah, and I guess.
Well, I just think that I think right now what we do, if we adopt this policy, there is no policy.
Well, what policy are we adopting?
If the policy is if you're a close contact, you just come back and just wear a mask.
And we would have to do the best that we can to help the teachers out, who's on the contact list, who should be wearing a mask.
I mean, I feel like that's what's been presented. I mean, as a proposal. Is there something in between?
How difficult is it for folks to get tests done if there was some sort of, okay, I will allow them to stay masked up, but after, by the 5th day, we want a test?
I think you can go buy them in the stores now, can't you?
State will send them to you,
So,
Yeah, well,
is that what the policy you're thinking of right now?
I don't know what I'm suggesting, if I am suggesting something, but should there be something, okay, if we're gonna allow them so that we don't completely lose our policy altogether, is there something we can put in place that builds some sort of reassurance that they are negative after so many days? But I don't know what would be the appropriate time scientifically.
I'm not even, really worried about that because I think, again, the numbers go down, over time. I think it's just a matter of, if we just say, look, you can come back, you don't have to get a test. Why would you have to get a test? Mask up, come to school. We're not even gonna do a temperature check either, correct? I mean, so if you come on in, we know there are plenty of parents that will make sure they can send their kids here for daycare also, if they can't be at home to take care of them. And so, even if they are sick, that's always been an issue for the school.
What would be wrong with letting them come back on day 1, but requiring a test on day 5 to unmask?
Would it have to mask? How long would they stay in mask throughout it?
We'll stay masked typically.
So stay in mask 10 days.
Or the other option would be, you get tested, but then you go get tested. Are you talking about antibody tests too?
Well, yeah, you got to test. Why not test on day 5?
Because some of our kids found out that they had the antibodies, so that's why they're coming back. It wasn't a COVID test, it was an antibody test. I had it. I can come back. What's that kind of tell you? But the kids walking around in school.
Agreed.
It's there. We can't hide it.
Well, gentlemen, put out a proposal, what you guys want to do, and we'll call for a vote.
And we're kind of in the minority of other schools yet, where we still have it. 5 out of 20, you said, only still have the quarantine?
Yeah, at the one meeting, it was 5 out of 22, and at the other meeting, it was 2 out of, I didn't count the number of schools that were there.
So all the other schools are adopting that kind of a policy.
They're all adopting different policies, not.
They already have policies in place where
A
their
very,
kids don't even go home, or they might be at home for 3 days or so.
It's a variation of
Yeah,
that.
there's a variation of things, but they were all, I would say, fewer than 5 days. The majority of them, it sounds like, they stay in school masked up, whether if they're close contact. And then if they're in the household of the person who tested positive, they go home for 3 days. That one, I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I want the household kids probably going home. But then you have situations where, we had a situation where the daughter came back, she never did have COVID. And people criticized their family because the daughter came to school and somebody else in the family had it. We had COVID go through our family, and our son didn't get it. He was in the same household, but he was out, so. But, I don't know
I
that 3
think-
days is enough time for a household, because there's probably a pretty good chance that you're gonna get it if somebody in the household has it. Unless you don't talk to each other. It's always possible.
And if we were to go with this new policy, we would definitely give parents, I would think we should give parents a chance to decide, yeah, you can stick with our old policy, you can quarantine, get tested on 5, come back day 7. I don't think any of you do that. No.
No, I think what I'll do is we'll get the feedback later on from the parents that called us last year. When we changed the policy that were upset with me. You gotta remember, there was people that contacted us when we went to
We were the first district,
Right.
as far as I know, in the state.
Right, first district in the state, you know, that went to a more lenient policy, and we had parents call us that were upset because their children were gonna be then exposed to it. So that's the feedback you're gonna have, is on.
Well, and then those parents, if they're concerned, they can have their children wear their masks during school, if they're concerned about it.
but the transmission goes from the person, if the person has it, then they should be wearing the mask, because that's what protects others.
Right.
So if I don't want it, me wearing a mask to school to prevent me from getting it isn't necessarily going to protect me from everybody else.
So hopefully, if they have it, and granted, there might be cases where they don't, but hopefully parents would keep their kids home if they had COVID, if they knew it.
Nowhere in here are we saying they can return to school if they have.
You just
No.
They're not tested.
Nobody's gonna test. You're not tested.
Does the school get notified if a parent gets it, does the school notify them of that, or how do you?
We only get notified of students and staff who test positive.
The only way the school would know is if the parent listed the children as close contact with the state, and then the state would be notifying people down the line after that. Even then, they're not gonna call it
But
the
the
school.
state doesn't
They're just gonna call the
notify
kid.
us.
Right, they're not gonna call the school.
They don't notify us of close contact, they notify us of positive.
Right.
And it's easy.
What kind of students say safe mask? This is then put an handkerchief across their face, that's not good. Put an handkerchief out of those.
We went through that debate a lot in the last year and a half. And obviously there are some that are form-fitted, whatever, healthcare providers use, all the way down to a handkerchief. And subsequently they said, yes, some are better than others, but some are just better than nothing. Is what it really comes down to.
Well, all right, I'm gonna call the question. We've got, return to school plan revision. We've got a motion to approve a revision. I just need a specific motion from the group as to how we want to proceed.
I need those.
That's what I'm saying,
What
what the
change is.
specific would be. Yep. So what do we want to do, Jim? Do you have a proposal? Aaron, you want to go with it?
So I'd make a motion to change the policy that if you're a close contact in school, that you can return to school day one, as long as you mask up.
Vaccinated?
Symptom-free.
Yeah, symptom-free, obviously. And then if you're a close contact in the home, maybe something like the 5 days. Because that, to me, that's where you're most likely gonna get is if you're a close contact in your own home. Versus sitting by somebody at the lunch table in school.
Or you have a situation like me.
Yeah, I gotta be honest here, and I had it, none of my family got it, but the one basketball game.
Well, then we don't,
I'm with you, Craig.
we don't
Yeah.
have to put that in there, but to me, that's where you're most, in my opinion.
I agree with you, and I know you've been in the situation.
Because I had this situation where Erin, my daughter, lived in my house. But she was not around us. We were out hunting. We picked it up in the vehicle going out, and my son picked it up from another hunting buddy, and Erin wasn't around. So we sent her back to school, and I got grief because of that. Because it made sense to send her back to school because she wasn't around us. Sure, she was in the house, and Jake and I were quarantining in the basement. And when she was in the house, she was upstairs away from us. You might have a situation like that.
Yeah.
now.
So my motion would be, if you're a close contact, you can come to school as long as you mask up, stay symptom free.
Do you need vaccinated for that? Or just-
Well, if they're vaccinated and they're.
We're
close
already,
contact-
vaccinated is not written in our policy or our plan, but we've been treating it as though you were masked up.
So if they're a close contact, are they required to, they're not required to quarantine?
No.
Do they have to wear a mask when they come in though?
Yeah.
So even if they're vaccinated, they're wearing a mask when they come back?
And antibodies. If they do.
If they can prove antibodies.
So they can mask up when they come back, Erin, and then it'd be the 10 days of mask.
All right, Aaron, so we got interrupted a couple times, just make sure we got it right. Your motion is that if you are listed as a close contact, you can come back day one as long as you are masked up for 10 days, 2 hours,
Correct.
and symptom-free.
Second.
Second by Larry. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. So, one negative, you said aye? Aye, aye, excuse me, I didn't mean to apologize. Aaron, I went over to the side of the room there, I'm so used to going by. Aaron, aye, all right, motion carries 3-1. All right, then I would have voted nay too if I would have voted. Motion carries. All right, discussion items, superintendent report, Dr. Block.
We had the Last We Forget exhibit at the Arts Council this week, and actually part of last week, our students, we've encouraged a lot of our staff and students to go down and visit that. Senator Thune will be in town tomorrow, probably running in the reporting department. He has not actually spoken at Webster High School in the 20 years that I've been here. And so he's coming to speak at, I think, 1:50 tomorrow. We're going to speak with the 9 through 12 kids. Talk about character, positive decisions, things like that. Typically, it's about a 15-minute conversation that he shares and allows for question and answers after that, and then we do a little bit of overlap stuff, which might last about 40 minutes. So we're kind of excited to have him here for that. We have a Veterans Day program on Thursday. At the return, we had a recorded program last year, and so it's going to be a black act underway again. Our speaker this year is going to be Terry Corner. I don't know much about him. Actually, I've spoken to him a couple times on the phone, and we'll be meeting with him prior to Thursday, so we can get him involved with the technical part of his presentation. So I'm looking forward to that. Kind of a pretty neat guy. I think he hails from Baltic. He's where he says he's come down there. He was going out to state things like that. So he's up in this area, lives in Rockland. COVID-19, we don't need to discuss anymore. We talked about the cases, recent cases here. So that's what I have for my superintendent's report. I don't know if you have any questions, anything else that's going on.
I can vouch for Terry. He's a good guy, moved back here because he liked the duck hunting opportunities, and I've had a chance to meet him on a couple occasions, and he's former Special Forces operator, 3rd Special Forces Group. He's a good guy, and I think he'll be nice that he's coming on in to talk to our students. Okay, any other questions for Dr. Block? Principal report, Mr. Case.
I'll give you an update on the outdoor classroom tables. I think I told you in September that they were coming in October. I didn't lie to you. I checked up on them, and they said there's a materials shortage out there, and I don't know if any of you can vouch for that. So they said they're about 4 weeks behind, so we'll probably get the tables just in time when the snow flies. So if they want to do an outdoor classroom during winter, they certainly can. So hopefully we get the tables here in next week or 2 weeks. Maybe they'll call and say it's still out in the freighter out in the ocean. I'm not sure. Contract agreement with the co-op. I signed a contract agreement with the co-op to help us with a paraprofessional for 2 hours a day. We have a need in the elementary special ed classroom for 2 hours, and they have some wiggle room with their paraprofessional. So we're able to have a contract agreement for, it's $22.52 an hour. So we'll be paying the co-op to have that person, Sapphire Anderson, will be assisting in the classroom for 2 hours a day. So what happened in the co-op is we had a student that was supposed to be moving here November 8th, but the parents could not find a house here. So they haven't moved here yet, so the co-op was going to hire, because one of the students was going to go into the center-based program. So we don't know when they're going to move here yet. So the contract agreement, once that student moves here, then we'll lose that help. So might have to hire in the future, I'm not sure, but see how that goes. Jessica Adler, new first grade teacher, is in her 6th day, doing a very good job. She's really poised, relaxed, connecting well with the students. Missy Hortness is doing an awesome job of mentoring her and helping her out. So things are going well with Jessica.
That's great.
Yeah. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Case. NESC.
Meeting, the only thing that I really caught that was substantial with it has to do with the testing. The Department of Education has said that the tests for involving the NASC have to be done by a psychologist, and we only have 5 of them within our co-op. So that makes testing very difficult, even though the testing companies themselves who write the tests say that it can be done by somebody who's not a psychologist, so they're trying to figure out why. That, and then Sarah Sickmiller, new Sarah here, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, Sarah here. Other than that, yeah.
You know, or you might know, they set the tuition, center-based tuition, did that go up considerably? Or?
Not considerably. I mean, it did increase. Our costing, I mean, when you're talking about our cost did increase because we have another student.
Right.
So when you look at our cost compared to last year, but when you're looking at the table, it increased, but it wasn't.
It's a tiered system. The more,
Right.
The more you have, the less.
you have, the less it costs per student. Not because you have more students, but it actually is, like if you just have one student, it's a certain amount of money. If
Right.
there's two, you pay that first month on the first one, and then that's on the second. It's based on our enrollment, and it's based on the number of students we have. I don't wanna say that we can't really negotiate, but it's based on a formula, so if we negotiate, we're trying to open up negotiations for everybody that's in a student. And they really try to base it on what they project the cost will be for all of the separate students, staffing, and facility, all of those things.
Okay, anything else, NESC? Okay, moving on, public meetings, and then buildings and grounds, CTE boiler project will probably roll into one with the other. I made sure that we put public meetings on the discussion items this month because unfortunately there's been a lot of misinformation out in the general public that we have created a public group without doing anything in the public light. That is 100% false. And unfortunately, it's taken wheels because the local newspaper has printed that as a fact. So I thought we'd have today, just so everybody can see, and if we could put the Bearcat TV on it, I want to make sure that people can go back and find, this is our June meeting. The allegation is that we've had a citizens group formed to assist us with the new CTE project without doing it in a public meeting. That is clearly not the case, and so luckily we were able to find on Bearcat TV the actual meeting where it took place, and I think we also have the minutes of the board meeting, the following board meeting, where we approved the public need to go forward. So if we could play this little clip, I'd like this to be out there so that people can go back and get the real facts as to what took place.
Spoke with Patty Munson regarding the project. What she needs us to do now is, as a district, has basically said, we need to come up with our finite priorities, needs and wants, and we have to eventually come up with a project or construction budget, and from there she will start the schematics of what can and can't happen, based on the estimates per square foot of what you're doing for construction. And so Joel and Larry and I met, the investigator, before, whatever, and I was able to contact Toby Morris. He was a financial guru from securities company in Peter, and he said that the next step with respect to him and how this process normally works is he will come here and share with you as a board and the public in an open session as to what we can afford and what we can look towards for what might be accepted and what's.
I think he sent me like 8 minutes worth of video instead of the 1 minute and 23 seconds.
That's okay, if it keeps going, it'll get there here in a minute.
Are you sure?
Yeah, if we have to, we're fine. The more information, get it out there, it's good.
So that's the next thing, that's where we kind of come up with, well, not kind of, we'll come up with a budget that we believe is doable with respect to future projects. And so of course I didn't write that down, but I sent you guys an email. I have two replies. July 6th.
It's a Tuesday, correct?
Tuesday.
5:30. He had some conflicts before that week and after that week. We were trying to get it so that we could maybe do something before our July meeting. And he said he could make board, and I'll see what I can do with our board.
I'll be able to tell you tomorrow. I'm waiting on a call back on Monday.
That's just the next step, you know, we, as the committee, didn't want to come to the board and, you know, try to recommend a number. We want to have Toby come in and help us come up with that number. And so but it is important that we get this meeting in and we start having that conversation so that Patty can continue on with her portion of the project. Isn't that right, Larry? Yep. But it's just the next step.
I'm sure there's a lot more.
Well, there is, but
this area.
we just don't know anymore until we have that meeting with Toby. I mean, we could sit here and talk all night about it, but there's nothing to talk about until we have the facts and the figures in front of us.
And Patty had some suggestions with, maximizing the use of particular facilities, things like that. Those are all things that we can talk about when we kind of know, okay, this is what we can't afford, what we want to afford, what we believe we can afford, and start from there. But I like where she goes with those items because it really is trying to share spaces for multiple programs and maximize the use of the facilities. And sometimes it depends on where they're located for that. So those are just a couple of suggestions that she made. And at the end of the paragraph, she goes, okay, I'm rambling, and you stop and that's all.
So basically, just meet with Toby's our next step, and anything else we need to be doing in the meantime?
Are you gonna look for candidates or?
For the committee.
Oh, yeah.
That would be the next step that we can work on.
I have a list, and we have like 8 or 9 different categories. And when I said, okay, maybe 1 to 2 here, 1 to 2 there, we would be looking at anywhere from 10 to 14 committee members. I will be contacting, just as an example, I'll contact each one of our career tech ed teachers, ag, construction, and that, and ask them to perhaps have one of their advisory committee members serve on this committee to talk about it, so that they've got some input and some knowledge.
I've got my list here, should I just kind of go over
Yeah.
our ideas? Was we would want to get, you know, a member from the fine arts community, a member from the fax community, a member from the ag community, a member from the workforce development community, you know, a business rep from, say, the development corporation, a community member, or, you know, city council, go through the city council to get the city on board with the community, and then find an ag producer or two. So we'll kind of get a little bit of everybody involved in the process.
Medical? Got a lot
Very
of people that
good.
do CNA, I mean, out there, and I think
That wasn't on their list.
once we have a bio, what's that
Yeah.
class that, Ms. Center teaches? I think it's pretty popular.
Hopefully,
Biomed.
hopefully Isaac's not lunch.
Can we pause it right there,
Is
Tammy?
there any other ideas?
So, this is our June, do you happen to know what date that meeting is? June 21st, public board meeting, published on Bearcat TV. All 5 school board members are here.
John Sir was there.
You know, everybody's here. Our following meeting on July 6th, we have a special board meeting. Again, members of the public are here. And in our very own minutes, there is instructions that these minutes are published in the Webster Reporter and Farmer. They are made general to the public. We advise Jim Block, as an entire board, to go forward with that committee. Again, that committee is Jim, Joel, and Larry. It's not a public meeting. They meet because it's not a majority, as public meeting rules go. And you can't have 500 people trying to tell, you know, putting all their ideas together. You got to start out with the small, work your way through bigger. So we had that meeting in June. We had the meeting in July. I believe later on, you know, one of our members asked a question that got mischaracterized, is the best way of saying it, in the paper, where allegedly never knew this group existed. It's just not true, folks. Everything we are doing is in the light. Everything that this board is doing is on the internet. Go back, research it on Bearcat TV. That's the great thing, that everything we've said at every one of our meetings since COVID has hit is out there for eternity on the internet. Every one of the votes we've taken, everything we've discussed. Larry, it was a great conversation just there as you saw with Jim, and Larry says, what about the group? Joel goes through it. We offered the insight back and forth. There's tons of information out there on the internet as to what we're doing. It's, to be quite frank, I've always been a big proponent of read the newspaper. That's where you get your facts. But this one is flat out wrong, and unfortunately it has taken on serious legs where people believe now that we are acting in the dark, and that is not the case. And I would encourage you, if you believe there is something, then you should contact a board member, or you should try to find out what is going on, because the information is absolutely out there. I've had a lot of comments from people in the community on this one that think that we've done something hidden, secret. These meetings have been in the open since day one. The fact that we had ISG, if people have questions as to what that boiler is, it's not a simple fix. I can't remember which board member asked ISG's expert when he was here whether or not he would invest the $2 million, was the estimate, into repairing the vocational one. One of the board members, I want to say it was Larry or Marty, one of you guys asked that question, maybe it was Aaron, and his response was, no. And he's the one that had a vested interest, if anything, to probably say yes. Again, people, I think this is important because disinformation is unfortunate, it should not happen, and it needs to be corrected.
There's a little due diligence, would that be the thing, how to use ISG. Dr. Block, Joel, and I think we met with them twice before the board, visited with them at all. And there's a lot of this that goes on.
Correct.
That the small, they're trying to gather and put information together to present to a board. And once we have something or something is understood or whatever, then it is presented to the board. But we can't act on it. When two people cannot act on anything from this board.
Correct. Our rules are, every year it has to be a majority. It has to be 3 votes, and you have to have 5 of us here. That's the way it works. You can have 4, technically a 3-1 vote, but again, it's got to be in a public meeting.
It's no secret, I put a post on Facebook.
Right, but those are with the small group, the buildings and grounds that are working on it, and those are the meetings that are done in order to give more information to the greater. Correct.
Right. It's no secret, I put a post on Facebook because I was sick and tired of the bad press we were getting in the Reporter and Farmer. And I'm gonna use Aaron's example. I was not at that, I believe it was a September meeting, I was not able to be here due to some work obligations, but I listened to the meeting, and I called in later to the meeting. And I went back and I watched that thing over and over and over again about how I believe they misquoted or characterized Aaron's comments. And what the public needs to know is the board that sits here, there's, what, Lori, 9, 10, 12 subcommittees, that we're all, there's different mechanisms. Everybody, all of us are on these different things, and Aaron may not know when Larry and I meet. I don't know when you and Marty meet for busing. That's just how it is. We can't know. If we know, it's a quorum. So, for Aaron to be surprised, I don't know, I shouldn't be putting words in your mouth, whether you were surprised or not. Why would you know? Because if you were on the invite, it'd be a quorum. Right?
Yeah,
I don't get invited to your guys' meetings, so I don't know when you meet. That's just how boards work with subcommittees. What's really frustrating to me is, and Larry and Jim are carrying the heavy weight on this project so far, and they've put a lot of time and effort into it, fact gathering, and go into the drawing board, and then we sit down as a group, 3 of us, and you throw it out the window and you start over. That's tough. That's hard work. And then to have it torn apart and people, in the media say that we're trying to do backdoor things, we still don't know what direction we're going. We are still in the fact-finding mission. We just met last week Thursday. You guys met on Wednesday. I mean, it's an ongoing thing, and so to have these negative comments put in the paper, I just finally had enough, and so I put some stuff on Facebook just to stop it. And I see there was even a letter to the editor this week, and I would love to know what if she would have wrote that, had she saw my facts before she wrote the letter to the editor. I really would like to know that. To my knowledge, that person's never reached out to me. I mean, you got a question, ask a board member. It's simple.
Yeah, the information is out there. There will be many more public meetings.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a consensus one way or another as to how we're gonna proceed. We have debated these issues in the open. I actually pride the the school board, because all of our meetings have been on Bearcat TV. We have up to what's the most we've ever had watch a meeting?
There's been a couple hundred at times.
Yeah, a couple hundred people, so I mean, they can get the information, the facts are there, and, we're looking at right in the camera, and you can't, if it's on video, and it's there, you can't come back and question me on what I said. So I encourage people to go to the internet, go to Bearcat TV, get your facts straight. It's not a $9 million per year project. I know that's a question that's out there. It's definitely not. I wish we had $9 million per year to work with. We don't. This is a 20 to 30 year project. I've had people worried about our enrollment. I had Lori just check for me since 2004. The lowest our enrollment ever was 461. Because I've had people say, your school's declining. It's decreased. This year's enrollment, 539. And we've also had concerned parents call and ask us if we're making sure we're getting people tours of the school. Craig, how many people have just been in since the last couple months to see the school?
I don't know how many have come in, but when folks come in, Jim or I probably do most of the talking to these parents. And if they want a tour, they'll ask me, but if they don't want a tour, I'll even ask them. If I don't have a meeting or lunchroom supervision or recess supervision or some kid I have to deal with, I'd say, yeah, let's take a tour. Let's go around the school.
That's not to mention in the summertime, you've given many, many, many tours during the summer.
Oh, right.
And one of the reasons we have to do tours, folks, we're in competition. There is no question we are in competition for every one of the schools. Our facilities and our staff matters. And so the fact that we're at 534 students right now, we're not in a declining enrollment. Last year's student count was 504, and we think that had a lot to do with COVID. We were projecting 520, so we might have lost 16, but we're still up 14 as to what we were projecting last year. The year before that, it was 527, 528. So, I mean, again, we're doing well with the numbers. I want to be clear, there will be public meetings if we go forward with this project with Architectural Inc., with Patty Munson. Go ahead, Larry.
Just corrected, you had 534, 539.
Thank you.
Yep.
534, sorry.
It's 539. Or is it
34.
540? Okay.
Yeah, my handwriting 4s and 9s get screwed up, not good. George Stewart would fail me on my 4s and 9s for anybody that took industrial arts, but 534. Yeah, sorry about that.
Lost money.
Lost money. Right there, we just lost 5 students. But please, get your facts. Please go to Bearcat TV. And if you have an issue and you have a concern that we're doing something in the dark, come and speak to Craig, come and speak with Jim, come and speak with one of the board members. But there has most certainly been no meetings that were never, or committees formed that were never not discussed in an open public meeting on more than one occasion. And those facts gotta get out there.
I've had a few conversations with people that it starts off that way. They're asking why we're being like that. by the end of the conversation, it comes to the fact that they think we're gonna just pass this through without any community input. So they think we're just gonna do it regardless of what they say. And that's how I think where they're saying, we're gonna be secretive about it, we're just gonna do it.
And to that point, Aaron, the fact is, we don't know yet. You know, and that's
Yeah, I
what's
know.
hard to tell the people.
But I think that's what, the secrecy, they think it's, we're gonna just do this secretly without their input. And we're not.
So you're saying not secret, but just.
They're
hear 'em, but not
confusing the
take it
secrecy
into
thing
account.
with how we approve doing it.
People don't have much interest in the first inning. You get to the seventh inning, a little more interested. Now we're past the seventh inning.
Pretty good, Larry.
So you're seeing, now there's interest.
Larry, that's one of the best Larryisms you've had in all the years. I'm gonna mark that one down. I like that one. That's a good one.
We don't need to go into extra innings either.
Yeah, I'm good with that too. All right, but please, public meetings, don't like the allegation that our board's acting inappropriately, because that is not the facts. All right, buildings and grounds, CTE and boiler project. Again, actually, we discuss this every meeting, unfortunately. I wish we could discuss something else. Where are we at?
Before we get to the boiler, and I do have one other item that I wanted to mention to you because it's a significant cost, and that's the condenser walk-in freezer, or the walk-in freezer in the elementary. We have a situation where the condenser actually was installed in 1983, and it's been upgraded and worked on a few times in the last few years. The gentleman that comes out to work on it is one of those conservative type guys who, oh, I can fix this, I can fix this. And he's just said, I think we're getting to a point where you may need to replace this. And so we want to do a rooftop replacement because the unit is actually in the storage room for the kitchen area, and it generates a lot of heat and noise. And so what you're seeing nowadays is those units outdoors, and that's what we'd like to do. You're going to see a condensing unit invoice come through. We have to work with an electrician, have to work with roofers, and so it's one of those things where we're probably ordering it now. I don't know how long it's going to take to get it in. We hope we get installed next summer, and hopefully with the current units there, we'll make it through this year so that we can move forward.
Any idea ballpark cost?
Yeah, the unit itself is about $7,000 or $8,000, and then I think installation with everything really $15 because you're dealing with, let's say, an electrician's got to do a different. I don't know much about it. It's 2-phase, 3-phase, but there's got to be a new box put in place that's bigger than what we currently are drawing for power. And then the roofing part, we have to make sure that that particular roof has the warranty taken care of. If there's still warranty, we got to make sure that we have the correct people work on it so that we don't worry about anything on that. We believe that the warranty is beyond 6 years on that roof that we're going to do with the
Sounds good.
So just forewarning you, there's going to be a sizable cost that will be a little bit larger than what you normally see on the claims.
40, almost 38 years old. Probably gotten our use out of it.
So moving on to the boiler and the CTE project, we have had some meetings recently with Patty Clinton. I would like to preface a little bit about the committee that seems to be a big discussion. The majority of the work that's been, like Joel said, Larry, Joel, myself, we did do tours with our CTE teachers back in September. Larry went with us on that. And so those folks have been involved with, per se, what they have for their programs right now, what they hope to have their programs, just looking at other facilities and deciding do we want to go this route, do we want to go that route. There's some stuff that we see in different schools that's really appealing to us. The committee that I think has been in question is, I call it a community committee. And I have the agenda from our August 4th meeting, and really, one of the biggest things that we want to do was share information with that committee, so they knew what we were looking at doing and why we were looking at this project. Looking at the priorities of the district long-term is one of the things. Plans and concepts were pretty new at that time, so there wasn't a whole lot to share. Although Patty Munson did visit with that particular group that evening with her initial plans. And then we talked about some cost estimates and the committee expectations. This particular committee, in my opinion, and my original thought with this committee was to listen and learn as to what we've got going on for projects and priorities. Come up with questions that you have for us, that you might have yourself as committee members, or you might hear from the community speaking, whether they know you're a committee member or not. Provide input if they have input that's worthy of listening to, and something we could utilize. And then kind of be that liaison between our school board, the small committee of Joel, myself, and Larry, as well as the community, for accurate information. That was the priorities for that committee.
And we haven't got anything else rock solid put together to give to them.
So my expectations of this committee is not to sit down with me and fine-tune plans with the three of us, or fine-tune plans with Patty Munson. The more people you get involved with that process, the larger your project's going to get. That's just the nature of facility planning. So just a review of what that actual committee is and what my expectations were when they developed. Our most recent discussions with Patty was making some edits to the plans. We like the hallways to be a little bit of a straight shot versus zigzagging around. We're still looking at a career and tech ed facility at the south end of the high school. There's some remodeling projects where we improved some things in the elementary office to make it more of a main entrance to the elementary, as well as accessible. We have, 3 steps inside the entrance there. And so technically the elementary is accessible through other entrances, but through the main entrance, there are steps. And so there's some remodeling suggestions in that area. We have some remodeling suggestions with the business office and the high school office located in the high school building, all in one area, where it would be the business office, high school office, athletic director, a conference room, and then repurposing the current business office either in the form of a center-based classroom, as one of the concepts is listed, or it might be, as I told Lori someday, it might be the new boiler room. She was like, what? I said, your office might be the new boiler room. It just depends on which plan you go with and what we're looking for. So she gave us a little bit of an updated plan. Recently, Larry and I met with her via Zoom on Wednesday, and then Joel was able to meet with us and discuss some of those things. And she's revised that plan, or those plans. Our request for her right now is to, because we've got a little bit more finalized idea of what we think we need in this project altogether, is we want her to now use the plans that she's put together to give us an estimate for cost, to determine, okay, where are we at in the whole project? Is it something we can afford? Is it something we have to look at cutting? Is it something we need to look at for a bond issue? And then we have some other things that we have to look towards addressing, and that's if we go through with this whole project and we do have a demolition of that 50 wing, it does affect the restroom room, it does affect the restrooms and basement. Those types of things need to be addressed sometime in the future, hopefully sooner than later, because we will displace some programs if we have demolition that occurs within the next 2 years. With that, do you have any questions those of you that are not on the committee, could be Aaron, Tom, and Marty, do you have any questions regarding where we're at with things? Where you hope to go? What are you hearing out there in the community that are questions that you can maybe answer via Bearcats TV tonight, so we get the accurate information out there? Or if there are questions you need to find answers, we can write them down and seek those answers.
You know, Jim, I gotta get a lot, excuse me, get a lot of feedback, pluses and minuses. Man, I've had this head cold for too long. I think it's good as long as we can get the information out. There's eventually gonna be public meetings. As long as we're keeping the goal in mind that, you know, we're not here just looking for tomorrow. We're not just looking for the next day and the day after. We have to be thinking the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. The kids that just came into kindergarten and pre-K, they graduate in 13 years. You know, they graduate in 12, and we've got next year's class coming in. We're entrusted with trying to figure out the long-term benefit of the school for the benefit of the community. 534, not 539. You know, our numbers are staying pretty steady. Everybody needs to remember that in 2004, 2005 is when we took out the high school capital outlay certificates and the bond issue for 20 years to build a new high school. We paid the high school off last year, or was it this year?
Last school year.
Last school year. And capital outlay certificates, and the final bond will be paid this January, I believe, payment, once we are into 2022. I went back and looked at the interest rate. Back when we did the high school, the interest rate, and we thought we were getting a good deal on that, it was at 4.75%. Now we're talking around 1.9%. That is a significant difference when you are borrowing money. Time value of money, compound interest. The fact that we can drop that by almost 3 percentage points is significant. The other thing is that we need to look at that when we did that project, again, that was a project that they thought was going to take 20 years. We still paid it off early. The track, same thing. That project will be paid off in 2025. We only have 4 payments left there. Once we're done with that, the only payments we have is the 0% interest for the remodel that we had with grade school. Many of the things that we're talking about, it's not just a CTE project. It's, you know, bringing up some things better in the elementary. It's fixing our boiler issues. It's just keeping the school as a competitive location for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And yes, education has changed from when we graduated in 1989. It's not the same. I think if you ask everybody right now, the big question is, where can we find all of the employees? Where are the employees that we're looking for? Actually, in Northeast South Dakota, there are not many 4-year college degrees that we're looking for. Most of them are the 2-year college degrees. A lot of students are figuring out that they can graduate from high school and they can get a job straight out of high school, and if they're good at a career and technical educational field, they can be making $50,000 a year plus, if they're good, right away. 4-year college degrees aren't making that, and they still have a significant amount of debt. Education's changing, and I think it's important we stay up with it. And so when I have the conversations with patrons, everybody thinks it's just a boiler project. Well, the boiler is the impetus for many of the things. But our career and technical education, I think that is a big part of our service to the community, just as much as our math, our physics, and our chemistry, and our English, and our reading programs. CTE is a big part. And just as I walked by last night, they had where the seniors were going. There's an awful lot of Lake Area, Mitchell Technical Institute, the different 2-year colleges are offering good paying jobs, and students are coming back here. So I just want to put out there, to me, a lot of this has to do with the CTE and keeping us modern, not just stuck in 1950. That's what I'm hearing. I don't know what you're hearing, Marty or Aaron?
Well, I keep thinking back that, you said the impetus of this is the boiler. Well, the boiler, something's gotta be done there. And if we're fixing that, we're spending a whole bunch of money, or we shouldn't stick the money into the CPE wing that's over there. So we've gotta do something on that end. Well, we're wasting money by fixing that. And it's not a proper fix. So one thing is leading to the next, is leading to the next, is leading to the next. And it's, with everything, the financial side of it, it'd be nice to just say this stuff that we have is great and it's gonna last forever, but that's not the way things work. Everything that people make wears out and breaks.
And that's just handcuffing future boards, if
Correct.
we just sit and don't repair the facilities and keep them modern. I started on the board 7 years ago, and our board president back then knew we had an issue, and I mean, we knew we needed to start earmarking money for a future boiler replacement. So we've been working on this in the 7 years I've been around. And in the last year, things have heated up. But we're also, let's not lose sight of the fact we're trying to utilize the COVID money in the best way that we can. We're trying to utilize low interest rates, because let's face it, they're gonna go up. I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces to this.
If we're gonna do it, it's a good time to do it.
No better.
I think in May, I may be wrong, I believe Jason Ritchie was doing Webster Bearcat TV. We had a presentation, of which several drawings were videoed. I think some of them may have even been in the paper. So when we share with the board, Jim and Joel and I have been working on like 6 different drawings. We're down to just about one now, but the 3 of us can't agree. We're getting closer, but we've been working with that many concepts and drawings, so to share something that we can't share until we finally get close enough, and we won't agree when we're done, so we'll be closer together and we'll compromise with it. But we have to rely on what we need, or what Dr. Block heads it up for us. He knows what we need more than I do.
Yeah. And I want to tell you guys, it is a process. When I came to our meeting Thursday, I had every intention that I was going to walk out of that meeting with a set of plans that we could share tonight. I mean, I bull rushed into that meeting thinking that, and I walked out of it going, boy, was I wrong. We got a lot more to think about. Just things, when you put 3 minds together, I mean, and that's why you can't have 20 in the room. It would just never end.
And I think your point is exactly what we're trying to say is, you are ready to share with somebody something, with everybody. You want to share it. We're just not there yet.
We're just not there yet.
Yeah, if they talk to one of us, we'll have a different answer. We want to have the same answer.
Right.
Well, our last go-around, we had, 5 different concepts, and we basically narrowed it down to about 2/3 of this one and 1/3 of this one to get together. And so it is coming.
I mean, we've been at meetings where we're taking and we're cutting plans apart, and we're, physically cutting them apart and laying different pieces. I mean, it's quite a process.
You
and
two are the cut and paste.
Yeah. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but Larry and Jim have been carrying the weight here, and thank you for that, guys. That's a lot of work.
And I think the patrons would be happy. I mean, we're using our COVID money smartly. We're investing those COVID funds, so if we do this type of project, it is long-term. It's not just a shot in the pan. I think that makes the dynamics and the math completely different because of those COVID funds. I mean, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and we can use them on these type of projects and help them make our school a better place. It's being a good steward. Not everybody's going to agree, and reasonable minds can differ. Actually, like I said, like the last meeting, Aaron and I lost a vote. Now I'm on a roll, 2 votes in a row, Marty and I. Next week it'll be somebody else. It's always good to have reasonable minds, disagree, but please, if you've got issues, hit us up. Anything else we got to discuss tonight? All right, next general meeting is Monday, December
13th. We do have middle school wrestling. Does anyone have a conflict with that?
Hopefully we're gonna have another big conflict. That is the National Robotics Tournament weekend.
Oh,
And if our team makes it, I will not be here.
Okay,
We won't know that until this weekend?
This weekend, Saturday.
Wednesday, does that sound like a good night, December
15?
15th? Any issue with Wednesday, December 15th? Going once, going twice? Sold, December 15th, 7 o'clock, next meeting, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Joel, second Aaron, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thanks Chase for doing that tonight.